Well, at the moment, the Prime Minister arriving at the Great Hall of People. Do remember, this is where a host of talks are going to be held with the Chinese leadership. Abhishek is joining me live. Abhishek, on the plate is going to be a lot of contentious issues when India and China engage today. What are you picking up on? How do these talks follow from here on? Of course, there is the very, very controversial boundary issue. Is that going to come up, and can we expect any sort of substantive movement on it?
Well, first let me speak to the visuals. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived for his ceremonial welcome at the Great Hall of People in Beijing, and he's being received by the Chinese authorities and being introduced to the Chinese delegation. There is also an Indian delegation, of course, that has accompanied the Prime Minister, that includes Chief Ministers of Gujarat, Maharashtra and Karnataka, and the National Security Advisor there. The Prime Minister, as you can see from the pictures, accompanied by Chinese Premier, being taken to the podium where he would be given the ceremonial welcome by a Chinese band, PLA band, and that's how this begins. There is a military band. The national anthem's over. Now the Prime Minister to take the ceremonial guard of honor. Prime Minister now taking the guard of honor from the People's Liberation Army, Navy, Air Force and Army units. It's a mixed gender unit which has both women and men lined together. Prime Minister Modi is accompanied by Chinese Premier Li Keqiang as the military band plays. In the backdrop, you can see the Forbidden City the medieval palace of the Ming and the Qing dynasties. Emperors lived in this building. It's a World Heritage Site for almost 500 years, from the 14th, 15th century right up to the 18th, 19th centuries. Prime Minister, of course, in the backdrop now is the famous Tiananmen Square, and then further on, the National Museum of China. Prime Minister now completing the Guard of Honor. Now the Prime Ministers are actually moving past the band and of course the media contingent as well. After this, the two Prime Ministers, Premiers, go and meet the respective delegations, after which the formal bilaterals between the two sides start in this great hall of people in the backdrop, towards which the two Premiers are walking, talking animatedly. It would be interesting how they are communicating, because is the Chinese Premier speaking in English? Because they are not there with an interpreter. Now, in fact, to go back to the podium where the Guard of Honor began actually for the ceremonial welcome amidst the gun salute. It seems that the Chinese Premier is actually speaking in English because they are holding a conversation as they walk. The military band, the PLA units, the Guard of Honor coming back again after having marched past as the leaders took the salute. Again in the pictures, the two leaders on the left, and towards the far end behind the marching guard is the Forbidden City, the palace of the Ming and the Qing dynasties for over 500 years till 19th century. This is a mixed gender band, the mixed gender Guard of Honor, with both men and women taking part jointly. Now the two leaders, having completed the Guard of Honor, walking back to the stairs to the Great Hall of People. This is the place where the Chinese Communist Party and the government legislate. The National Congress, National People's Congress meets. The two leaders would be followed by the respective delegations, and then of course inside the delegation level talks take place, and we are told about a dozen government to government deals are to be signed for cooperation in various sectors between India and China. This is going to take about a couple of hours, and then you can expect that the two leaders would be making a joint press statement at around 11:30 China time, which would be about 9 a.m. India time. The two leaders, the respective premiers, Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Premier Li Keqiang, have gone inside the Great Hall of People. The respective delegations are following, and the delegation level talks begin immediately. From the Indian side, there are chief ministers from Gujarat and Maharashtra that could be identified, apart from the national team, the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval,